When I was in school, I had learned that the sun was stationary. It revolved but did not rotate about its own axis.
You learnt the sun revolved and did not rotate around its own axis? Well, Galileo discovered the sun rotates around its own axis in the 1600s, so you definitely went to a bad school. I think that kind of explains a lot.
So the atheists will say, is that mentioned in the Quran? I say, no, that is what I learned in school. When I passed my school in 1982, approximately 12 years back, I had learned the sun was stationary, did not rotate about its own axis. But the Quran says in Surah Anbiya, chapter number 21, verse number 33, Huwa allazi khalaqa al-layla wan-nahara. It is Allah who has created the night and the day. Wash-shamsa wal-qamar, the sun and the moon. Kullun fi falaki yasbahun, each one traveling in orbit with its own motion. So the Quran says that besides the sun revolving, it even rotates about its own axis. Who could have mentioned this in the Quran 1400 years ago? And the atheist will be silent. There'll be a long pause. Don't wait for the reply. You can keep on continuing.
The verse you just cited makes absolutely no mention of the sun spinning on its own axis. Not a single exegesis in Islam makes this claim either. The Quran is clearly geocentric. Idiotic, yet honest clerics who don't try to change the meaning of verses in the Quran agree.
Allah يقول والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. فالمؤمن يؤمن بما دل القرآن عليه ويصدق بذلك ويدع التعمق والتكلف، فالنص القرآن صريح في جريانها كما أخبر الشمس تجري لمستقر لها، فيؤمن بالقرآن ويصدق به ولا يلتفت إلى سواه.
في الآية الكريمة يقول استفسر عن هذه الآية والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم. هل الشمس تدور حول الأرض؟
بلا شك هذا هو ما دل عليه القرآن. والشمس تجري، هم يقولون لا الشمس واقفة والأرض هي اللي تجري، هذا عكس ما جاء في القرآن. وإبراهيم عليه السلام قال للنمرود إن الله يأتي بالشمس من المشرق فأتي بها من المغرب فبهت الذي كفر. فكوننا نترك ما دل عليه القرآن ونأخذ بالنظريات الحديثة هذا لا يكون من المسلم، ويجب على المسلم أن يتبع القرآن.
Today, science tells us that the universe is expanding, which is mentioned in the Quran 1400 years ago in Surah Dhariyat, chapter number 51, verse number 47.
Here, Zakir Naik is actually right. He's honest. No, I'm just kidding. The way he makes this claim is by changing the Arabic word in the Quran to mean something entirely different to the original. This is evident once again if you look at all translations pre-1920s and when Hubble and science made this discovery, and not the Muslims for some reason, which would be a surprise if they genuinely had this verse in their book to give them such a big clue. However, what occurs here is a subtle change to the Arabic word musi'un into muwassi'un. The original says God created the heavens and he is surely capable of doing so. When it's changed, it can mean wide expanse or extending. It's a subtle change to the original word, but conveniently changes its meaning to try and deceive.
The Quran speaks about the water cycle which we learnt in school. It was Sir Bernard Palissy in 1580 who first described the water cycle, how does the water evaporate from the ocean, forms into clouds, moves into the interior, falls down as rain. This water cycle is spoken about in great detail in the Quran in several verses. In Surah Az-Zumur, chapter 39, verse 21. In Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse 24. In Surah Hijr, chapter 15, verse 22. In Surah Mu'minun, chapter number 23, verse number 18. In Surah Nur, chapter number 24, verse number 43. In Surah Rum, chapter number 30, verse 48. In Surah Araf, chapter number 7, verse number 17. In Surah Furqan, chapter number 25, verse 48 to 49. In Surah Fatir, chapter number 35, verse number 9. In Surah Yasin, chapter number 36, verse number 34. In Surah Mulk, chapter number 67, verse number 30. In Surah Tariq, chapter number 86, verse number 11. There are hundreds of verses in the Quran which only speak about the water cycle which science has discovered recently.
In case those verses were too quick, let's just check a couple of them out. One here seems entirely irrelevant to water altogether. It doesn't actually mention anything related to water. And this one here is probably the most detailed out of the bunch. As you can see, it's certainly not miraculous knowledge. The ancient Greeks knew a lot more about the water cycle, and even the Bible has verses that are more accurate, like this one.
You can go on talking about the scientific points. There are more than 1,000 verses in the Qur'an which speak about science. After every scientific fact, you ask the question, who could have mentioned that in the Qur'an? The only reply the atheist can give you is the creator, the cherisher, the manufacturer, the inventor, the producer. This creator, this manufacturer, this producer, this inventor, we Muslims call him as Allah. That's the reason Francis Bacon, a very famous philosopher, said, little knowledge of science takes you away from Almighty God. In-depth knowledge of science makes you a believer in God. That's the reason today scientists are not eliminating God, they're eliminating models of God. La ilaha illallah. Hope that answers the question.
Okay, even that is wrong. As I've just shown, you clearly have little knowledge of science, yet you are not an atheist. You are on the religion of your forefathers and use plain lies and deceit to try and reinforce your own confirmation bias and that of others, while at the same time misleading non-Muslims who may not be familiar with your tactics and unwittingly assume that you are credible. I'm hoping I've made clear that you should stop citing these examples as miracles of the Quran's divinity. You only make yourself look silly, but I guess in the end, credibility isn't a concern of yours as long as the money keeps rolling in and you can find ignorant masses to nod along to your nonsense.